guys, this is Fergal from PokerVIP, and we are back for our fourth and our final installment of the Moving Up the Limits through Coral Speed Poker. So as I said, this is part 4 now. Parts 1 and 2 focused on the lowest limits of the speed poker games, so the 5NL and the 10NL games. And parts 3 and 4 now, we are going to be playing some 20NL. So as I said, all of those videos are now available to watch. So if you haven't watched the series, feel free to go back and watch them. They are all, of course, completely independent though, so there's no need to watch the predecessors first by any stretch. So exact same format as per usual. We're going to be playing 2 tables of 20NL speed poker side by side. I'm just going to be playing my regular game, talking through my thought process, and basically going through the various strategies that I utilize to beat these games. So over on the left table, we opened up with the king and the 9, blind versus blind. We have checked 2 streets, and we're just going to go for value versus hopefully a river to 10 here over on the left table. I think it's very, very unlikely that our villain is going to start bluffing at any point, so I'm happy to try to get some value there. And over on the right table, we played our hand reasonably passively, but we were in trouble the entire way, and our opponent ended up with a set on the river on a 4 to a straight board, so it makes sense that he wasn't looking to bet that at any point. So yeah, happy enough with how we played the hand. We were calling pretty much there, mainly looking to set mine. We would have been making some moves on certain boards, but that particular board was most certainly not one of them. Although a large bet probably could have taken that down at some point. The queen and the 10 of the same suit, we are going to be bringing it in for a raise, and the pocket 3s from the button, we are also going to be bringing it in. So we get 2 callers, pretty decent board for our pair. Obviously, there shouldn't be many 4x in our opponent's ranges by any stretch, nor should there be. There's going to be some 9x for sure, but not a massive amount. When this guy donks out, though, into 2 people, we are going to assume he has at least a flush draw. And if he does have a flush draw, then we are probably behind, so equity-wise at least. Versus 2 overs and a flush draw, even in position, it's going to be pretty tricky to turn a profit there in this hand. And over on the left table, the ace is a fantastic card for us to start betting. After we have raised, or after we've played pre-flop, checked back the flop, we're going to be checking back some ace highs for sure. We were the raisers, so we've raised pre-flop, we checked back the flop, and so yeah, our ace x bet here, it seems perfectly credible. So hopefully we get this bluff through, which we do. The player that we got that through against was one of the players that we bumped into in part 3 of this video, and we have seen him limping quite a reasonable amount. We got involved in a couple of interesting spots with him then as well. We're going to make an assumption about him that he is one of the more passive players, but obviously our sample size isn't particularly huge. Over on the right table, we opened up the ace-7. We're going to check back ace-high. Ace-high has a lot of showdown value here. And this is the guy that we were just talking about. He decides to bomb out on the turn when the potential flush draw comes up. We're going to go ahead and give this one up. Ace-high is definitely the best hand there sometimes, but even when it is, he's going to have an absolute ton of equity against us, and, you know, we're not sure about his river tendencies just yet, whether he is likely to barrel his missed flush draws. I'm definitely not comfortable calling down with 2 streets there by any stretch. We've checked back this flop. We're just going to bet here to fold out his higher unpaired cards, basically. I'm not expecting to get many kind of pocket pairs to fold here on this particular board, but we can definitely fold out king highs, queen highs, those types of hands. So we are going to fire once here, and just very much as a one and done type bet. I don't think it's the kind of board that we want to be firing multiple streets on. Fortunately, the single barrel gets it done though, so we take that pot down with the 8 high. The 4 deuce over on the right table, we are just going to be folding versus any sort of normal size raise. Yeah, if versus a min raise, we don't tend to fold in position when we're getting that good a price, but versus the ordinary 3x raise, we can definitely stick the 4 deuce in the book. The queen jack off suit, we are likely going to be using this as a 3-bet bluff. Versus a button open, that is exactly what we're going to do. This guy beats us into the pot. He puts in the 3-bet himself, so now we're just going to go ahead and fold. We've absolutely no information about the players in this pool, about their kind of 3-betting tendencies. It doesn't seem to be an overly aggressive pool in general, for sure. So I'm just kind of going off of kind of general population reads. I've no specific information really about any individual players, apart from what I've gained from memory in these sessions. I'm not using a HUD or anything like that. Incubus decides to min open from the button. We are just going to 3-bet, and 3-bet are normal sizing, and if this guy decides to reship, we are not folding our pocket tens. That's my general plan of action here at the moment. We take it down pre-flop, which again isn't a horrendous result. We would have preferred a little bit of action there for sure, but there are worst case scenarios for pocket tens, that is for damn sure. We're going to defend our blind here with the suited 2-gapper. We can definitely use this hand as a 3-bet bluff, but I think I'm fine calling as well. I think these players play pretty horrendously in general post-flop, so I'm happy enough seeing a reasonable amount of cheap flops and looking to make some moves post-flop. So for example here, with our gut shot, I think this is going to be a pretty damn profitable bet when he is checked back. I think we're going to take it down an absolute ton. And when he does call, if we bink our gut shot, I would expect to get paid very, very frequently on the river as well. And I'm not really expecting to ever get raised there. So yeah, as I said, like the sheer amount of the time that we're going to take that down with just that single bet on the turn rather is going to be really, really profitable. As we open up the ace and the 4 over on the left table, we get 2 callers. Not a particularly good board for us. We're not really looking to continue here. This pool definitely would be interesting to go to town on it with my HUD set up, because there does seem to be a reasonable amount of kind of exploitative tendencies. I've noticed a lot of people kind of donking out on flops where they really shouldn't be. I've noticed a decent amount of small 3-bets, like really, really small 3-bets. I've noticed a decent amount of kind of limp raising kind of ranges, those types of things. So these are all stuff that is really, it's really useful to get that kind of information based around specific players. So it's something that I might look at doing in the near future, because in general this pool is incredibly weak. So there's definitely a hell of a lot of money to be made. Like I've been playing it a decent bit both on and off camera, and I've been pretty much beating the crap out of it, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. And that's without a HUD. With the HUD, I would be pretty confident I could really do some damage here. This guy just absolutely snap calls. We're pretty like our bet with our 3s was essentially a bluff. It was bluff / protection, just kind of makes the hand really, really easy to play just by betting small on the flop. On this particular run out, obviously I don't expect him to be bluffing here very often at all. We flop a set over on the left table, and this guy just pots out, which is beautiful. When he pots into 2 people, I don't really expect him to ever be bluffing here, so I'm just going to raise small and expect him to rejam over us fairly frequently, and certainly never fold anyway. So he has a pair and a flush draw, so we just need to dodge some outs, which we do, and we stack them, which is always nice. So it gets the session off to a reasonable start. Although it's not really the start anymore, we're definitely a little bit into it. But yeah, like I mean, he definitely didn't do anything wrong there by any stretch. I mean, he has top pair, he has a flush draw, he's going to have good equity against every single type of hand. It's pretty unfortunate for him, obviously, that he ran into, you know, a set like the absolute top of my range, but you know, it's going to happen. Like even at that, I think he was still like in around 35% there against me. So in his absolute worst case scenario, he still has 35%, which, you know, is not a horrendous result by any stretch. The Jack and the 9, we are going to be bringing it in for a raise. And the King 7 suited, we are going to make a decision based on the action before us. So Joker Benman decides to 3-bet us, and he 3-bets us with a reasonable sizing as well. We're just going to go ahead and fold our offsuit weak Jack. We're going to be defending King 7 here, blind versus blind. It's not a hand I'm planning on folding heads up. I don't really like 3-betting it though. Like, it's actually going to be ahead of a decent chunk of this guy's opening range, and we have position, so seeing a flop with the hand that has the potential to flop reasonably well is a pretty attractive proposition to me. And similarly over here, we decided to go and see a flop multi-way with the King and the 10. So we flop top pair on the right, and we're going to go for the flat call. We turn an open-ender, but there are now 3 spades on board, which is a bit of a concern. He fires again, we're going to call again. River changes nothing at all, really. Over on the left table, we're going to be bringing this in for a check and a raise. We're not planning on folding, really. It's just a question on the right table now of whether we want to value bet or not. I don't think we do. I think we're going to check this back. I'm not, yeah, like I was expecting to be good there fairly frequently. On the left table, this ace is actually a pretty bad card for us. And the queen is even worse. Wow, that was a pretty horrendous run out for us. King Queen gets there, Ace King gets there, Queen Jacks gets there. I think we're just going to check. I'm going to expect us to go check fairly frequently, but I do expect to lose here quite often. I just don't know if we're going to be getting him to fold a lot of the hands that we want him to fold, basically. And on this particular run out, unfortunately, we have to muck our cards. Like, obviously, any jack is there, and he's just going to have, when he calls our check raise, on this particular run out, he's going to have so many two-pair combos now. And anything that isn't a two-pair is almost certainly a jack as well, so the chance of us being good there is almost non-existent. I say almost because you can never rule out random spazzes there, but I would say with 99% certainty there that we were dead in the water. And we possibly could have been dead, or not dead, but you know, hands like Ace King there for sure are possible. Although when he jams the river, I think he's going to show us a jack more often than not, because I think all of his two-pair combos he probably just checks back and kind of takes his showdown value. Hands like King Jack, I guess, could make sense. Queen Jack definitely makes sense. So yeah, all of those types of hands. And we have the Pocket Kings on the right table. It's going to be good for a 3-bet. Let's hope we get some action from Hodor, obviously a Game of Thrones fan. Unfortunately, we take it down, but again, I always say it, when we take a pot down pre-flop, there are always worst-case scenarios. No matter how good our hand is, even if it is the pocket aces and we get a walk in the big blind, while it's a little bit upsetting, of course, there are always worst-case scenarios, so we're never too upset. We're going to flat call our button here with pocket eights. 3-betting is for sure a viable option, but I'm definitely fine flat calling as well. And on the ace-high board, we are just giving it up. There are some boards where I am not necessarily folding. We weren't just set mining there, but the ace-high, when this guy bets, especially the sizing, it's a very, very clear fold. Trying to continue there would be an absolute spew. And the deuce and the 7, the dreaded deuce 7, is going to be a fold almost certainly, versus the 4x from the button, it most surely is. And a7 offsuit in the big blind, it's a lot more attractive hand, but even still versus a 4x from the cutoff, it's still going to be a fold. We're getting less than 2-1 on our money. We're out of position with a hand with fairly significant reverse implied odds, so there's very little going for that hand. Here we are super deep. We're never considering folding. It's just a case of whether we want to 4-bet bluff or not. I think I'm fine just calling in position with the hand that can flop a straight flush. And we completely whiff, so we're happy just to give it up. We're going to be dominated there a reasonable amount. We're going to be up against a decent number of pocket pairs. Ace high is going to be ahead sometimes, but it's pretty unlikely we're going to be able to realise that equity when we are ahead. I think he's going to be pretty likely to put us under a decent amount of pressure there in a lot of different run-outs. So if we call, when we are ahead, we're still going to lose reasonably often, even when we have position. It's still going to be a tricky hand to play. And when we do hit, we have no guarantee to be ahead because he can be, you know, bluffing with better ace highs and so on there also. So if we do bink an ace, for example, it can put us in some very, very tricky spots where we are going to lose a decent amount of money there because it's going to be very difficult to get away when we do bink an ace. So just sticking it in the muck, I think, is going to be better than anything else. So we bet our pair of sixes over in the left table for protection / value. We're not going to fold just yet. He's still going to have some flush draws and so on that we beat. The 10 is a great card. It reduces his 10x combos. Not that I think when he bets this turn he's going to have an absolute ton of them. The hand I'm afraid of most right now is, you know, kind of the Queen X of spades. I think he's going to have some random Queen X floats for sure. I'm going to hero call this, I think, just because, you know, Smith spades make the most sense. It doesn't make sense to be betting a turn, or betting the turn with a 10. So I'm going to go ahead and hero call, and he does indeed have the missed flush draw. So always nice when you're right on camera with the hero calls. The ace and 3 is going to be a fold, and the 5 and the jack is also going to be a fold. So far this session has been going pretty well, a lot better than the previous sessions. We've had a reasonably break-even series so far. I don't think we've run up many stacks on parts 1 through 3. I mean, obviously we've been playing the same kind of strategy. I don't change my game at all. Like, we play the same kind of poker all the way throughout, but obviously poker is the nature of the game. It's full of variance, so, you know, you can be playing absolute flawless poker. Not that I say I do, but, you know, I play reasonably well for this pool for sure. And, you know, you can be playing your absolute A game and not be turning a profit. And similarly, you can be playing really, really bad poker, you know, being on tilt, making a lot of mistakes, and you can just somehow get there every time and win a ton. So it's not all, like, there is an element of luck, obviously, but the only thing that you need to keep in mind, obviously, if anyone watching this video, I'm sure you're all aware, if you're making the correct decisions in the long run, you are going to turn a profit, and that's all that I really care about. So I'm not all that concerned about the session by session results. It is always nice to turn a profit, though, for sure. Actually, normally I'd be 3-betting here. I think this guy is too short to 3-bet against, though. It's just a case of whether I don't really like calling either. I'm actually just going to make it really nitty folds. It's just his stack size is going to be super, super awkward to play against. We're not going to hit an ace often enough on the flop there to consider calling, I think, there, given his stack size. This guy just opens to 270, leaving himself 4 quid behind. Do we go with our hand with pocket sixes here, or do we fold? Like, so it's a case of whether we just want to ship it or whether we want to fold it. I think versus this kind of open, I'm going to go ahead and fold. Like, some people just make these ridiculously large raises with really nutted hands. And, like, obviously pocket sixes is never in amazing shape. Like, you know, it can be marginally ahead, but it's, like, that's a really, really unknown range that I'm up against. So I think it's going to be a mistake kind of firing there very frequently. Or just kind of stacking off there at will. In a multi-way pot here, are on a potential flush draw board, out of position with our middle pair. I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Like, we're definitely folding the best hand here a reasonable percentage of the time, but the problem is, again, we kind of spoke about this earlier, it's going to be very, very difficult to realize our equity. When we're out of position, we're going to be able to be put under so much pressure. We get min 3-bet, and again here, the issue here is if I call, this guy is getting an insanely good scenario to just jam no matter what he has, really, if he has a hand that's good enough to call. So despite getting this stupidly good price, I'm going to fold, and mainly because I think we're going to be, at best, dominated there an absolute ton versus that short stacker's line. I think it's very rare that both of our cards are live, so we're going to be up against like hands like ace-king, pocket kings, pocket aces really, really often, I think. So I mean, even if we do call and we see a Jack-X flop, I think we're going to be in a pretty negative EV situation as well. So the only really good flop for me there would be like Jack-Jack-X, even on like a King-X kind of board. I'm still not thrilled, or, you know, like King-Jack obviously would be pretty good as well. And, you know, when everyone is so short, we're just not getting a great price to make a lot of money when we flop really strongly, but similarly we're going to be getting a really good price to kind of stack off in a lot of top pair hands as well. So as nitty as it does seem getting that good a price, we're getting like 5-1, it's just going to be a really, really bad range to take kind of King Jack up against there. That is going to be a hand I am going to go back and have a look at, though, because that is, I possibly made a mistake there for sure, but as I said, versus such an unorthodox line, and a line that just seems so nutted with his stack size, I think it's going to be fine. So we flop a very strong hand over on the left table. We're going to start off with a call. I think we're going to have him drawing dead reasonably frequently. We cannot just flat call anymore. We're going to have to put in a raise, mainly because we want to start building the pot, and he can have some kind of hands like ace jack and so on that have picked up a gut shot that may decide to continue because we're giving him a very good price to do so. And on the right table, we are going to go ahead and call with our top pair when he pots into us, and I don't really want to fold here either. I'm not going to be shocked if we're beat here, but yeah, he had the flush draw and the gut shot, that makes sense. This guy is going to show us 10 jack here sometimes, but we're also going to be missing value just by flat calling a ton, so we are going to put in a value raise. If he comes back over the top, we're going to have a pretty tough decision. He calls with the 10 and the jack, so he has the stone cold nuts, and he decides to flat call. So, am I right in saying that? There was no flush draws possible. He decides to just go ahead and flat call with the nuts. So going back to what I was saying earlier on, the player pool in this site is not the best by any stretch. It's a pretty weak standard of play, and I mean that just makes no sense at all. How do you flat call with nuts ever? It's just absurd. And as I said, I mean, I don't know what I was going to do if he came back over the top. There's definitely a chance I'm folding there for sure, but there's also a chance that I'm stacking off there, and I mean, you know. Why would he not want to get the money in there when he literally cannot be behind? Does he just assume that I always have 10 jack as well and he wants to save on the rake? If so, that's some ill-advised reasoning, sir. That is some ill-advised reasoning. But hey, we can't be too upset. We flopped a set. We flopped top set. We got turned, and we didn't get stacked on a reasonably safe board. Pocket queens, pocket aces, and 10 jack all beat us, but none of them were massively likely. So yeah, we're not that upset at all. In those kinds of situations, I always kind of consider that money, like the money that we saved, I consider that money won basically. We're going to fire a protection bet here with our pocket fours. Our pocket fours are going to be good very, very often. And we don't want to give two people a chance to draw for free. And, there are obviously a ton of bad cards. Any 7 counterfeits us. Any overcard is a potential pair for our opponents. So I like just firing small here and either taking it down now or thinning the field at least. I think it's very unlikely that we're going to get 2 calls here. If we get raised, we have a very, very easy fold. And yeah, I think this is going to be absolutely fine. There's obviously 2 4s left in the deck as well. If we do get flat called, we can improve. But obviously I'm not overly optimistic of that happening very frequently. We do get called. It's just a question now whether it's worth firing again. I don't think it is. We're going to check this back. Amazing run out for us. We still beat hands like 9-10. Some overcards are going to float here occasionally, so we do beat those as well. Hands like 10 jack, especially with overcards and a gut shot, all that sort of thing. So we're just going to check back here and take our showdown equity. I'm not going to be shocked if we're beat, but I do expect to be good reasonably often as well. And over on the right table, we have an open ender and we have a backdoor flush draw. We're going to go and have a bet. We take it down with the king high, which is always a decent result. The king and the 7, we are going to be raising if it's folded to us. And yeah, we are. It's a hand sometimes I like to use as a 3-bet bluff, but what I've noticed on this site, 3-bets do get called an absolute ton after they've put in the initial raise. So what I'm going to start doing is tightening up my 3-bet range for sure, and just make it really, really value heavy, because I don't think people are going to really be adjusting to that well. And normally my general game is to be very, very aggressive with 3-bets and 3-bet quite light, but when we're out of position with reasonably weak holdings, the profitability of 3-bets comes from when your opponents fold, not from when they call in position, because that's going to be a very unfortunate situation when your range is reasonably weak. So we're just going to make our 3-betting range a little bit tighter, make it more value heavy, and really punish the people who are calling too wide. Pocket Jack's obviously a really, really standard enough bet there. I don't think we're ever looking to slow play Pocket Jacks there. There's just too many cards that we don't want to see in the turn. So just betting for protection / value seems like it's the order of the day. Queen 10, we are going to be folding. We're going to fire once here with the Jack 10. Obviously, we can credibly rep decent numbers of King X. We get called, so firing a second barrel here wouldn't be absurd by any stretch, but I think I prefer just check folding. As I said, I'm playing reasonably straightforward ABC poker here. When you're not playing with any kind of hood, you just sort of have to err on the side of caution typically, because you don't know what kind of animal that you are up against. So there are a lot of players that I would be, double barreling there relentlessly on that kind of board, but without any information, I opt for the safe route. We value bet our pair of 10s over on the left table, and we take it down versus the short stacker. Ace deuce on the button. We are going to be bringing it in for an open. If anyone opens before us, we are going to be sticking our cards in the muck where they belong, because it's not going to play that well in a raised pot. So let's go ahead and fold our hand. The 6-4, similarly, we're going to fold. And the 8 and the king is a little bit too loose. It's certainly close to the top of my fold range, but I still think we're going to go ahead and fold this. Again, these are the kinds of spots where hoods come in really, really useful. If I have any inclination that the blinds are overfolding to a significant degree, it's going to be a fine hand to open. Without that information, though, again, we're just going to err on the side of caution. King 9, very, very standard open, of course. Blind versus blind. It's going to be ahead of the big blind's range for sure. Not a particularly good board for us. I mean, he's definitely going to have connected reasonably well. We do have blockers to 8 and 10x with our 9, but I don't think this is going to be a particularly great board for us to bet. The ace card is a fantastic card for us to rep though, so we are going to go ahead and have a bet on the turn. So we do get that fold through, which is nice. We get 3-bet by Hodor over here with our ace-queen suited. We're going to call, we're going to see a flop. We block a decent number of king x here, which is quite good. So he can have hands like pocket queens, pocket jacks, pocket tens that we're all behind, but we might be able to get these hands to fold. What we're going to do is, with our blockers and our backdoor flush draw, we're going to go ahead and put in a check and a raise. And hopefully just take this down and fold out those kinds of pairs that I mentioned. Like, his sizing doesn't indicate a huge amount of strength here. So I think I like this line for sure. We're getting a really good price on our bluff, and I think it's going to behave pretty damn honestly, because my check raise doesn't really make that much sense as a bluff here. But obviously with our blockers, with our ace and our queen blockers, it's going to be pretty damn good because it makes it much harder for him to have hands like queen king, like ace king, and so on. 3-4 suited is close on the button. We're going to fold. That's a little bit nitty though. And pocket sevens, we are going to 3-bet versus the button open. And pocket queens, unfortunately we get the walk, but what do I always say? There are worst case scenarios when you get a walk, even when you have a very strong holding. There are always worst case scenarios. And if you could get a walk every single time you're in the big blind, you would make an absolute killing at poker. Because obviously the big blind is where you lose most of your money when you're obliged to put that. Obviously it's only one big blind, but it adds up very, very quickly when you're playing tens and hundreds of thousand hands like I do. Anyone who has a HUD, if you've ever looked at your positional stats, you'll be very clear if you have any sort of reasonable sample size where you win your money and where you lose your money. So yeah, the blinds are obviously very, very unprofitable spots to be in the long run, of course. King Queen, obviously a very standard button open. We are going to check this back and bink the king on the turn, because that's how we do it. We're going to use our ace jack off suit here as a 3-bet on the button. We're just going to call here. We can definitely consider raising, but I think calling is going to be better. Keeps in his kind of bluffs if he ever has any stone cold bluffs. I don't know if he's going to have stone cold bluffs. I think we have to call here. Again, I don't really like raising at any point. That's kind of gross. He flopped the nuts, so he returned the king, which is really unfortunate. It allowed him to get 2 streets of value from us, but you know, it's not the end of the world. We lose an extra €2.50 there, which, you know, when you run into a flop straight, isn't a horrendous amount to lose. The ace queen suited, we are going to be bringing it in for a raise. And the 10-3 offsuit over on the right table is going to be a fold, of course. So this is the passive enough player that I was talking about earlier on. Now the only thing I'd say about this guy, well, we do think he's a little bit passive with his limps and so on. He has been reasonably aggressive post-flop, and we haven't actually seen any of his hands get to showdown yet. So I'd be very interested in seeing a hand get to showdown that he plays in a similar way. It's looking like he's just going to time out here though, and we're going to pick up the blinds, which he does indeed. Uh, 7-8 blind versus blind, we're going to be bringing it in for a steal. Hopefully he just folds or calls and we flop a monster. We don't flop a monster, but we flop a pretty good draw. So we're going to have a bet. It's a nice high board as well, which is a pretty good board to be c-betting on. And obviously when we have 6 outs to the nuts and we have 8 outs to a very, very strong hand, like obviously the 2 straight outs that complete a flush aren't amazing for our hand, but they are very, very good for sure. And the ace-9, we're going to be bringing it in for our standard button raise. King-jack suited, we're going to ISO the cut-off limper. We're going to be wrapping up the session pretty quickly now, so I think this Jack-King suited hand and the pocket sevens hand, yeah, I'm going to sit out the next hand on both these tables. So these are going to be our last 2 hands of the session. So pocket sevens, we are going to be bringing it in for a squeeze. And as I said, we're going to be ISOing with the King-Jack suited. So we get 3-bet kind of small, which is a concern. Or we get 4-bet, should I say, rather. I think I'm leaning towards just giving up the pocket sevens here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and fold. And over on the left table, we fire 2 streets to extract value from his hands like King Queen, like his heart type hands and so on. We're going to check and try to induce some bluffs from his misdraws. He doesn't bite. It's possible he had a hand like Queen Jack. We missed a little bit of value there. Let's go and have a look. He did indeed, so we miss value from that specific hand, but we do gain an absolute ton of value from his missed heart draws, from his straight draws and so on that might be inclined to bluff the river. So versus his exact holding, our check was bad, but versus his overall range there, I think we're going to turn a higher profit in the long run by checking and inducing rather than betting ourselves. So this has been me, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the series. If you have any further questions or queries, feel free to post them on the relevant media, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. You can also message me directly and so on at PokerVIP over in the forums. I do hope you've enjoyed watching the videos as much as I've enjoyed making them, and hopefully you can apply some of the theory and see some improvements in your own game. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Take care.